Sir, I have sent mail. Sunil sir.
Power off.
Yes.
Audio input.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome. I'm just checking if the judges for today's debate competition have joined. Dr. Pratibha and
hello.
Good morning, Veena madam. Have judges joined? Both of the judges? Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Dr. Sanjeev Saxena. So nice to see you.
Morning, good morning. Nice to see you all after a long time.
Yeah.
Hello, Dr. Sanjeev.
Hello, madam. How are you?
Good morning
Hello,
to the
how are you?
Director, Dr. Ashok Kumar. Should we start, sir, now?
Yes, yes.
Because we are.
Can we wait for another couple of minutes, 2-3 minutes, because now it's
Yes, we can wait. Because only 30 participants are there.
Because the persons are joining.
Okay. Good morning, Dr. Saxena.
Good morning, madam.
Yeah, how are you?
Very fine.
Okay.
We have our erstwhile colleague from NBPGR who is now in ICR has also joined, Dr. Anuradha. Welcome, madam.
Anuradha.
Anuradha, Dr. Saxena.
Good morning. Joined in ICR where?
She is national coordinator in NAHEP.
Oh, very good, very good.
Higher education project.
Our latest export from NBPGR.
NBPGR has given so many people to ICR.
Yes.
I think you should document it.
So वो एक डायरेक्टर कॉरिडोर में स्क्रीन लगाया है सर, उसमें भी
डॉक्टर सक्सेना आप आगे देखो, ऑलरेडी डॉक्यूमेंटेड. आप आगे देखो along with your photograph.
Oh, very good. I'll just
Good morning and thank you, Sunil, for your warm words of welcome.
Hello, Anuradha.
Hi, I was speaking. Actually, I didn't realize my mic was off.
Okay. Good morning.
How is everything?
Fine. Everything is fine.
Sir, I think if you permit, we should start the program saying welcomes to shuru kari sakte hain, sir.
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Good morning, everybody. May I now request Dr. Veena Gupta to start the program with the welcome remarks.
Okay. So thank you, Dr. Sunil Archak, and respected director, Dr. Ashok Kumar, our honorable guests and judges, Dr. Pratibha Brahmi and Dr. Sanjeev Saxena, my colleague, Dr. Anuradha, and all other participants who are present in this debate competition. I welcome you all for this debate competition, the topic of which is, are the international instruments of biodiversity conservation successful in building a shared future? It's a very good topic, looking into the present situation and current environment. And this time we have participation in teams. One will be speaking for against the topic and one will be speaking for the topic. So again, I welcome you all for this debate competition, and I request Dr. Sunil Archak to kindly give a detail about the introduction of the topic, how it has been created and what we are supposed to know about it. Dr. Sunil, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, madam. Good morning and welcome again. Some of us, those who are a little bit senior at NBPGR, have witnessed from their, let's say, post-graduation days, how things have developed internationally with respect to trade, that is GATT and then WTO, and then with respect to sharing of genetic resources when CBD was, let's say, adopted. There was a competition globally who would reach first the fruition between CBD and the WTO. CBD won there, but whether it has really won after that is the matter of discussion today. Now, after that, lots of water has flown under the bridge, and people have debated. In fact, people have been debating whether the fundamental objectives of the Convention on Biological Diversity as well as International Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources of Food and Agriculture have been met, or are we moving towards actually attaining those objectives, or we are simply becoming penny wise and pound foolish. We are looking into the details too much and not really looking towards the objective, what was the aim. And there are more complications because of the technological advancements, because of the geopolitical rearrangements. Many things have changed. Many things are changing. Initially, people thought the multilateral system will be the best way because it will protect the weaker countries. It will give a common framework for everybody to work so that the gene-rich countries as well as technology or the funds-rich countries can come together on the same table and then have negotiations. Then people then move towards what is called as bilateral system. Nagoya Protocol is one of the examples. Then people in international treaty are currently thinking that this multilateral system has failed to bring in sufficient funds. So why we can't go for some kind of bilateral arrangements? And recently now people are talking in CBD that Nagoya Protocol is no good. It's not bringing any rewards, any returns. So that means this churning is going on without actually achieving or attaining the exact benefits that everybody hoped for. Now, people are describing and deliberating upon what are the, let's say, drawbacks, where we have failed. Is it because of the apathy of the governments, or is it because of the one-sidedness of the texts, or is it because of the lack of knowledge and awareness among the stakeholders? So there can be many reasons. We have to be careful when we are talking about, when we are discussing or deliberating or debating. It is not here that we are not here to belittle something that has been achieved over a number of years. This is done by participation of a number of knowledgeable people, number of countries. We are not here to belittle something that has been achieved. We are here to debate whether this has succeeded. If it has, what are those points? If it has not, what are those points? And what can be the alternatives? Where India stands and where we should move ahead. So that is the objective. So I would like to just say last couple of lines saying that countries have moved ahead with these international arrangements, but people should also think about how within a global arrangement, multilateral arrangement, regional arrangements and bilateral arrangements also are possible. Like we have in WTO, we have regional trade agreements, RTAs, and we have bilateral arrangements within the framework of the multilateral arrangements. So I just hope that all of us become much more aware after today's debate about the current status of these international frameworks, and then we can move ahead within the institute and wherever we go to attend in meetings in different fora. Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Sunil, for giving a very nice and detailed topic, what we are supposed to say and what we have to give. So now we have two very distinguished colleagues who will be judging our participants who are going to deliver their debate competition. So I have this very good opportunity to introduce two of our judges. So first, I will introduce Dr. Sanjeev Saxena. He is our colleague from NBPGR, as you all know. Presently, Dr. Saxena is the Executive Director and Public Information Officer of NAS. And he earlier he was the Assistant Director General for Intellectual Property and Technology Management in ICAR headquarters. He is not only an expert on biodiversity, dealing with plant genetic resources, but he is also an expert on all these international instruments which are governing the biodiversity movement. He has also worked in Agri Innovate at ICAR and closely worked with the farmers for whom we are finally working for under the guidance of Dr. Anil Gupta at National Innovation Foundation. In his career span over 29 years in ICAR and other prestigious institutions of India, he is involved in different dimensions of biodiversity, genetic resources, intellectual property, and technology management. This includes the analysis, development, and implementation of policies, advocacy, and awareness generation. His involvement includes other related dimensions also, like plant variety protection, seed sector issues, farmers' rights, biotechnology, environmental concerns, and traditional knowledge. He has been closely associated with several reforms related initiatives in ICAR, besides being instrumental in the formation of several mega projects on crop and seed research and development, not only in India, but also at international fora. He has represented ICAR and plant genetic resources at different conferences and different institutions. So this was a little bit information about Dr. Saxena, who has a very wide experience on this topic. Now our second judge is Dr. Pratibha Brahmi, my colleague who is working as principal scientist in Germplasm Exchange and Policy Unit at NBPGR. She has the experience of germplasm exchange, all policy related issues and IPR issues involving in the exchange of germplasm, like for export and import from India. She is managing the export and import of plant genetic resources, including supply of germplasm within the country as well as outside the country. She has developed guidelines for this exchange program under the ITPGFRA, developed procedures for filing applications of ICAR for Plant Variety Protection Act with PPFRA authority. Currently, she is Vice Chair for Intergovernmental Technical Committee on PGFRA of the Commission on Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture. She is a member of Ad Hoc Committee on Conservation and Sustainable Use of ITPGFRA. Also, she is involved as a member expert committee on access and benefit sharing of the germplasm of NBA and a regulatory member for the Regulatory Expert Committee of BIREC DBT. She has developed many programs and also the material transfer agreement for GRFA within the country and for bilateral exchange, which is notified by their ICAR for use by the NARS. So it was she has also participated in various conferences and meetings which deals with the intellectual property right and the exchange and for awareness and guidelines for facilitating procedures for export at India as well as abroad. So this was a very small introduction about these two vast personalities in the field of plant genetic resources and IPR issues. Now over to Dr. Sunil Archak for the introduction of teams and rules for the debate competition.
Okay, thank you very much, madam. Kul milake, we have two judges. The one who kept who took the first step from NBPGR towards all these things, WTO or treaty or any of these things. The other one who is managing currently. So we have excellent judges. Thank you very much. We have four teams. That means a pair of speakers in each team. So I'll just mention first the names of the teams in the order so that the teams are ready. These are randomly chosen order. The first team is all names with doctor. So I'm not going to mention doctor with everybody's name. First team is Suma and Sherry. Second is Vankede and Yasin. Third is Neelam and Chanchal. And fourth is Badal and Harish. Okay, for them to prepare. Okay, now I'm not going to introduce all these speakers right now, madam. What I'll do is when I call them for debate, I'll introduce them to the judges as well as the audience. Now, I'll just give briefly the rules for the speakers, for the people who are going to debate as well as for the judges. Each team comprises of a pair of speakers, one arguing for example, treaty or CBD, they have delivered reasonably, and the other debating against treaty and CBD have failed to deliver. There are four teams. Order will be decided by drawing of lots, and which I have just mentioned. Each team starts with for speaker followed by against speaker. Before you start, so I'll introduce them before they start. Each speaker will get 5 minutes. Each speaker will get 5 minutes to make the points. Okay, that means 5 plus 5 minutes for each team. Each speaker will have 5 minutes. No PowerPoint slides, no nothing. They have to speak plainly to make their specific points, to communicate to the audience as well as to the judges. They will be assessed for the validity of the points, logical argument, and style of the presentation, and any other important points which judges deem correct. After all teams complete their turn, everyone will get an additional 2 minutes each to debate, example, supporting or cutting the other points and arguing against what has been presented by somebody else. So each one will get 2 minutes additionally after everybody finishes 5 minutes. Okay, and I think this is all. If there are any specific things in between, the judges will mention. Okay, thank you very much. So if all of you permit, judges, shall I start with the first team? Yeah, sure.
Yes, Sunil, we can start.
Okay, thank you. The first team is comprises of Dr. Suma. She is a scientist, economic botany and PGR. Her expertise is in dealing with PGR management of vegetable genetic resources of the tropics. She works at the regional station Thrissur, and she's interested in this topic. She's participating in the debate because to have a better understanding of the impact of international instruments in building national policies that govern fair and equitable sharing of benefits arising out of the use of genetic resources. Because it's a matter of heated debate in the present scenario, she wants to be part of this particular debate. So may I invite Dr. Suma to start today's debate program. You have 5 minutes and your time starts now.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, all. Leave no one behind is the rallying cry of the 2030 UN Agenda for Sustainable Development, and reducing inequalities within and among countries is goal number 10 of our Sustainable Development Goals. So, dear friends, the world today is working at the core grassroots level for removal of these inequalities. So today, I am Dr. Suma, is joining this debate for the topic, yes, the international instruments of biodiversity conservation are fully successful in building a shared future for all life. According to FAO, Global food insecurity exists when people do not have adequate physical, social, or economic access to food. This reduction of this global food security depended upon the mobilization of the genetic resources for research and innovation. The under-mobilization of genetic resources and underutilization not only threaten the conservation of biological diversity, but also hinder the developmental activities by the international agencies to reduce the food insecurity. It is reported that the annual global market for the products derived from the genetic resources has been estimated to be between 500 to 800 billion US dollars. So during the past 2 decades, we have some international policies that affects the genetic resources conservation, use, and exchange, which have entered into force. These regulations increase the bargaining power of the countries and also the organizations which are investing in genetic resources and which those are maintaining the biological diversity. First of all, the Convention of Biological Diversity, which just came into force in 1993 with 3 main objectives: the conservation of biological diversity, sustainable use of its components, and the equitable benefit sharing of the utilization of these genetic resources. Prior to CBD, we know that these genetic resources were seen as a common heritage of mankind. But under CBD, every country had sovereign rights over their genetic resources. And thus, individual countries have gained rights to negotiate bilateral agreements over access and benefit sharing. To address the issue of this restricted exchange for plant genetic resource for food and agriculture imposed by this CBD, International Treaty for Plant Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture came into force in 2004 with almost similar objectives, but with a facilitated exchange of PGR by establishment of multilateral system of access and benefit sharing, in which the PGR, the plant genetic resource for food and agriculture, is exchanged under a standard material transfer agreement instead of this prior informed consent and mutually agreed terms which was prescribed by CBD. This multilateral system was extended to 35 food crops and 29 forage crops, and these were selected based on the food, based on a criteria of food security and or the interdependence, which was a negotiated compromise between the member countries. According to a very recent study by McKinnon and Spillman in 2021, in which they have analyzed the network of this genetic resources flow, and their result supports that in major crops like rice, wheat, and maize, after the entry of the ITPGRFA, this was associated with the increase in genetic resources flow, which was otherwise declining during the CBD era. Further, to advance the access to this genetic resources and the benefit sharing elements, a recent policy was also instrumentalized, which is the Nagoya Protocol on Access and Benefit Sharing, which came in October 2014. Nagoya Protocol was also a supplement to the one of the 3 objectives of the CBD, and it acts as an instrument between the biodiversity conservation and utilization. According to this Nagoya Protocol, the provider and the user must establish a prior informed consent and mutually agreed terms to practice equitable sharing. A well-defined access and benefit sharing can promote the commercial research and also innovations. This Nagoya Protocol is of recent initiative. The impact studies of this Nagoya Protocol on biodiversity conservation and utilization are very limited. So these policies are very important to address the food security issues and also challenges in the present scenario. Further, these global policies are based on mutual consensus between the member countries. So every member has got a bargaining power, and thus it will become a more democratic and accommodative in nature. So these instruments may require a long time to standardize and diffuse through the research system. Let us not now look at the outcomes this international policy will give us. Now, because maybe in some cases they will give some negative outputs, but our focus should be on the basic intention for which these were made and whether these particular policies are driving in the right direction. And these policies are meant for posterity and whose outcomes cannot be judged based on only within a period of this 10 to 20 years. These policies emerged as a noble cause or solution to mitigate the restricted genetic resources access which was during the previous times. Obviously, developed countries which are technologically well developed, but they will be gene poor. They also need access to these genetic resources to develop better technologies and improved genetic resources to feed the ever-growing population. So even though the developing countries are deprived in terms of benefit sharing, we can now say that the end will justify the means. With this, I strongly suggest that these international instruments are fully successful in building a shared future for all life. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Suma. You overshot the time by 1.5 minutes. Because you were the first speaker, I was just keeping quiet. I request all the speakers to just maintain your time, please. Okay, thank you very much. Now, I will introduce the speaker of the team who is speaking against the topic, Dr. Sherry Rachel Jacob. She is a seed technologist currently working on cereal germplasm conservation from Division of Germplasm Conservation, NBPGR, New Delhi. She is interested to participate here because this is a topic of debate directly associated with my line of work and also pertains to a fundamental aspect of natural justice. Both are close to my heart. So, quote unquote, this is what she says. Sherry, please start.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. So let me pull you out from this illusion of philanthropy, which my teammate has successfully put you into, but of course, for a very noble cause, that is building a shared future for all life forms.
Excuse me, Sherry, your voice is blurred. Can you just be a little closer to the mic or maybe...
Ma'am, is it okay now? Ma'am, is it okay now?
Yeah, better.
It's okay for us anyway, but just see.
Okay. So dear friends, I joined this debate going against the motion. The international instruments of biodiversity conservation are not successful in building a shared future. So to begin, let us revisit the timeline of biodiversity conservation, where it began thousands of years ago as a way of life, where it was a totally inclusive domain. But post-1950s, with the advancements in scientific plant breeding, coupled with the heavy dependence of developed countries for food on limited, some 20 to 30 species, crop species, which also had a very different place of origin, then the scarcity, or I would say rather the non-accessibility of genetic resources was felt and realized. And thus entered the Lupov Convention under the garb of TRIPS agreement, totally conceived and strategized by developed countries, I would say, exclusively for protection of new varieties with unrestricted plant breeders' rights. Conservation was their least priority, and definitely the agenda was not a shared future. But there remains still a very diverse spectrum of PGR outside the UPOV's ambit, like land races, crop wild relatives, indigenous unique genotypes, which all were eventually brought into the legal scenario under the CPD and ICAR-NBPGR. Now, I should say the legal instruments, these legal instruments do give due thrust to biodiversity conservation, but they still leave ample space for procuring patents and PBR, plant breeders' rights, that privatize and restrict access to PGR with a lot of uncertainty over the benefit sharing mechanism. Around 1,000 patents exist on 5 staples: rice, wheat, maize, soybean, and sorghum, which are vital for global food security. More than 600 of them are held by just 6 agrochemical corporations, and these 6 MNCs control 30% of global seed markets, 98% of GM market, 70% of the pesticide market. Now, how does this relate or affect the biodiversity conservation for ensuring the shared future, which we are debating today? Now, because of this monopoly by the profit-oriented MNCs, the small and marginal farmers in developing countries, who are the true custodians and sustainers of local biodiversity and who otherwise mostly rely on farm seeds, they are the worst hit. they no longer own or have free access to varieties developed using genetic resources taken from them. And also those genetic resources that evolved and survived over centuries only due to their efforts. A stark contrast to inclusive conservation of the pre-1950s. Now, secondly, these instruments are centered around prioritizing CG gene banks as major conservation hubs and the primary vehicles for attaining the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. Now, we are all aware that more than 1/3 of CG collections have been acquired by them during pre-CG era, and the sharing of benefits emanating from their use is still a muted debate. And even after implementation of treaty, the documents prove that Crop Trust has mobilized huge amount of genetic resources through two major projects, collaborative research projects where benefit sharing is minimal, involving around 25 to 30 developing countries, one on regeneration and one on crop pulse relatives. Now, even within the CG system and in the crop trust, you should remember funding is highly regulated, and these MNCs are definitely involved who have free access to all these mobilized resources and are pushing for further access to expansion of Annex 1 list. So now in this scenario, when can we expect the success of these legal instruments in ensuring a shared future? I would say only when these platforms equally accommodate a discussion on benefit sharing of pre-CBD material, along with their agenda on expansion of Annex 1 list. I would say only when in sharing of resources through collaborative research, when the resources are shared through collaborative research, the developing countries does not get relegated to the status of mere suppliers and are left at the doorstep waiting for benefits. Only when the benefits of collaborative science permitted by these instruments can strengthen developing countries in such a way that they themselves can generate and utilize digital sequence information for their own resources. Again, only when plant breeders' rights are subject to farmers' rights under all policy regimes and farmers' rights are not left to national legislations. Lastly, only when countries like India with highest entries in the ABS clearance window become recipients of proportionate benefits. So friends, currently the divide is big. Trust deficit is bigger because history keeps on reminding us that the greatest tyrannies have always been perpetrated for the noblest of causes. Let justice prevail. Thank you.
That's very excellent. 4 minutes, 43 seconds. Very good. Thank you very much, Sherry, bringing out some very, very important debate points. Thank you to Suma and Sherry, first team. Well done. Now I invite the second team of the debate, in which Dr. Wankhede will be speaking for the topic and Dr. Yassin will be speaking against the topic. First, Dr. Wankhede. He is a scientist at Genomic Resources, Division of Genomic Resources, and his expertise is generation of genomic resources and use of them. Why this topic interests him is because it is directly related to our and future generations' well-being and global peace. May I invite Dr. Wankhede?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. I hope my voice is audible enough.
Yeah, it is very clear. So
Okay.
Your time starts now.
Yes, sir. Okay. I am speaking in the support of this topic, that is for that are the international instrument of biodiversity conservation successful in building the shared future. So before directly going to the topic, I would like to narrate one story. In the time of Buddha, there was a dacoit called Angulimala who used to kill people for certain reasons. And Buddha went to him to convert him from his tendencies of killing the people. And when during their interaction, Buddha had asked him to cut some leaves from a tree. Because there was an aura of Buddha also in that influence, he was a little calm enough, and then he went and cut few trees and brought to the Buddha, and Buddha had asked him again to go and keep that leaves back to the tree the way they were earlier. So Angulimala said that it is not possible. It is very easy. It is not possible to put it back. Then Buddha told him that it is really easy to destruct the things, but it is very difficult to construct the thing. Now I am coming to the topic that the destruction of the biodiversity is not a de novo, but it is a man-made. It is by the unsatiable urge of the better life, which we need to ponder over, that what all we have gained with this urge and what we have lost. Now, why I support this topic is that because the international agency, through the power and the promise of collective scientific endeavors, which has demonstrated by the different agency, notwithstanding the national barrier like the boundaries and the political differences, in the pursuit of the objective to defining the larger good of the human beings. They had put large effort to define the protocols and come to an agreement. And this also has come through the importance of role of knowledge, the scientific knowledge in shaping the public policy and the guiding the global affairs for sustainable development for the human society through conservation of the biodiversity. This also, the instruments also acknowledge the threats and the decline of the biodiversity to stability of the human security, and therefore the need for developing an effective, rational and the timely adequate action to avoid such threats to the future. We know that through the sustainable development goals of the UN, the biodiversity is an important aspect, and through several goals, the services the several ecosystem provide is crucial for attaining the sustainable development goals. So with respect to plant genetic resources, and I especially speak with respect to Indian context regarding the conservation of biodiversity. Like the PGR, like different gene banks all over the world and also in the India had conserved the plant genetic diversity. We at the gene bank has conserved. We know that for different the crops we have conserved the diversity not only in the gene bank in vitro, but also the efforts are going on for the in situ conservation. There are different sanctuaries prepared. Sanctuaries prepared. Also, not only for the plant genetic resources, for the micro agriculturally important microorganism, there has been conservation of the diversity. Aquatic life, there has been the diversity has been conserved. About the insects, and also for the animal genetic resources, this has been conserved not only in India but in the other parts of the country. Now, since this has been controlled, the efforts also will be made for their utilization. Now we know that in general there has been increase in interest. We have lost our diverse food basket with respect to PGR earlier, but now there has been renewed traditional food, and through that by different ways. Now we see increase in use of millets, in increases use of the traditional oil seeds and other methods. Now we also see that not only the CBD but other institution which had helped for assess the magnitude of this problem, like this intergovernment panel for the climate change. And to justify my point that it has been successful in addressing the seriousness of problem, that 2007 this IPCC was awarded a Nobel Prize, and we know that the Nobel Prize is not awarded to any Tom, Dick or Harry. So with this the IPCC was awarded to this not only for understanding and disseminating the greater knowledge about this man-made climate change, and also to lay the foundation measure to counteract this change. I will end my topic by drawing a parallel about a disease of the person and the diagnosis by a physician. The physician diagnosed the problem, but the stakeholder, if he doesn't take the medicine, whatever the protocol has been there by the physician, the standard, that won't be successful and the disease won't be free. The same thing is about the conservation of biodiversity, and the different stakeholders, the sovereign countries, and every individual has a role to play in conserving the biodiversity, and not just the international institutions and the protocol. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dhamma Prakash Wankhede. You were just overshot by just a minute. And yes, onus is also on the stakeholders. Welcome. May I now invite Yasin? Yes, Dr. Yasin Jeshima. She's her expertise is in molecular genetics, genomics, and molecular genetics, genomics, and computational biology. She is from Division of Genomic Resources, NBPGR, Delhi. And don't be misled by her expertise. She is also interested in all these topics of wider interest. She has already participated in CBD's online forums in 2017-18. She was one among the 5 from India in that. And she has reviewed the draft report from the forum and completed 3 online courses from WIPO. More than that, she is working in NBPGR. So she says that it itself is sufficient to have interest in participating in this debate. And yes, it's very important to know about conservation and related aspects institutionally as well as internationally. Welcome, Dr. Yasin. Your time starts now.
Thank you, sir. Honorable Director, respected judges, HODs, and my dear friends, very good morning to all. First thing is, accepting a failure is halfway to win the next step. So we have to accept the fact that what is actually existing. The question is, are they successful? The question itself says that they are not successful. If that is a success, this might be a day, the Nairobi's Day of Conference 1992 might be a celebration instead of a debate. I think the judges might be accepting this fact. There are a wide range of international environmental agreements have been negotiated to deal with particular environmental concerns. In particular, some of the main international agreements created to address the biodiversity conservation. Example is CBD. There are many more. And the liberation of these agreements facilitated more number of signatories. And best example is 120 signatories of a treaty or agreement. First thing is, before getting into how much remuneration they are generating, what kind of taxes are imposed, all these things, we need the basic material, that is the material conserved. There are 36 wildlife hotspots in this world, of which 6 are from India. 6 means 1/6 of the global resources. That means it is a responsibility, not just a wealth. Of this, 10 most threatened are from each, of the total 10 most threatened, 2 are from India. And to qualify a biodiversity hotspot, it should have at least 0.5% of the global biodiversity. That means at least more than 1,500 species. And those 1,500 should be endemic to that spot. And if it is having a loss of 70% already, then only it is declared as a hotspot. That means already we have lost more than 1,000 species from each hotspots. And if we lose any of these hotspots, that means a mass extinction equivalent to a Jurassic era kind of extinction. Definitely that will cost human life very badly. So we have to accept the fact first. In CBD's, the post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework, CBD themselves declared that despite ongoing efforts, biodiversity is deteriorating and will worsen under the business as usual condition. This means this is the statement of failure declared by CBD on the strategic plan for biodiversity 2011 to 2020, which was planned in 2010. When the conservation itself is a failure, everything related to that, that means material sharing, access and benefit, all those things will be a failure. Okay. So because we depend on everything, all those things means everything is dependent on the conserved material. What is not covered in the decades, that means 11, 12, 20, everything is failure. That means the remaining thing what they wanted to cover is by 2030. Okay, so 2030, that means what is not done in decades should be covered in 8 years. To create such awareness only we are here. That means the purpose of this debate, meeting, everywhere what is being conducted is to create awareness, because already we failed. At least we should not fail hereafter for the mankind, welfare of the mankind. as this is a part of broad-based action by 2050. So what we are doing today is our future plan. By 2050, we have to achieve. So any international organization cannot conserve anything directly. They cannot come into the land or territory because they have to maintain the sovereignty of the states. And this is stated everywhere in their prints. We are so and so limited, and we don't have any liabilities, and we don't have any legal status. They say this. They can give only the directions to the government, and the responsibility is on the signatories. Okay, that means it is on us. As a signatory, if an organization or if a treaty is failing, it is everyone. It is everybody. The whole society is failing in that. So we should be a responsible person to accept the fact and to move on further in a positive way. We know what is given for R&D in our country. Education, medicine, and overall science gets only 2% of the GDP, and the bio gets only 0.2%, and the conservation gets only a conservator. We should accept this. Now the framework aims to galvanize urgent or transformative action by the government and the society, sitting at 49 degrees centigrade and saying that everything is perfect and successful is totally inhumane. Climate and biodiversity go hand in hand, and this year we didn't receive even a single summer rainfall here in Delhi, and we should take this condition very seriously. We do have very good action plan, but without any action. Nearly half of the biodiversity hotspots have less than 10% of the primary vegetation, and almost more than 5 hotspots are with less than 5% primary vegetation. That means it is nearing an extinction. Human intervention is very high, and due to anthropogenic activities, passenger pigeon is extinct. Salamanders were hijacked in the name of or kidnapped in the name of treating them as pets. And Canadian goose, they bred to a new species. They developed a new species by over pampering them, and there are natural calamities also, and they destroy everything from their part, starting from earthquakes and forest fires. Oh yes, forest fires may be man-made, and Brazil has already destroyed 50% of its forest for having coffee plantations and sugar plantations. Forgetting all, everyone started discussing about how to develop GM mosquitoes. If that is done, for sure, we will lose all our aquatic ecosystems. And MTS and ABS are the key issues discussed everywhere. Even in the CBD's forums last, we discussed on this mainly. In 2017, Walter Soil, it is a place located somewhere 700 kilometers south of Madagascar in southwestern Indian Ocean. A French global environment facility has conducted multidisciplinary expedition. That's how they started discussing about ABS. What to take from there? It is a global resource, but a French group is taking all those things, and they are discussing about the access and benefits area. And how much we are bothered about all these things. That is also very important. Earlier, IAEA has expressed its concern to declare mutants as modified organisms. So, but we will declare modified organisms as EVAs. And to finally, during conclusion, I wanted to say that Tesla's electric car is no more green, because the generation of power and means conversion of power from one way to another way, it generates a lot of environmental damage. So it is not green as we are considering. So we have to accept the reality. What is lost is already lost. Better late than never. Accept the fact and come with me. Let us start conserving the diversity so that we can discuss further about the access and benefit sharing and what can be earned out of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Yasin. Better late than never is very, very important message. Ladies and gentlemen, all of you know that Venezuela is the richest oil-rich country. The maximum oil is present in Venezuela, but it is having hyperinflation. So as long as country is not aware and then stakeholders are not awake, nothing can be done. So being only rich is not sufficient. Thank you very much, Dr. Wankede and Yasin, for your presentations. Now may I invite the third team, which has Neelam Shekhawat and Chanchal Jaina from our regional station Jodhpur. First, Dr. Neelam Shekhawat. She is a scientist in genetics and plant breeding, working at regional station Jodhpur. Her topic of interest, this topic interests her because biodiversity is fundamental requirement for sustainable livelihood. Have you joined? Where are you, Neelam?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes, you are audible.
Yes.
This is fine. She is
Thank
going
you,
to,
sir.
yeah, she is going to speak for the topic. Okay. Welcome, Neelam. Your time starts now.
Good morning to one and all. Myself, Neelam Shekhawat from NBPGR Regional Station, Jodhpur. Today, I will be speaking for the topic. Topic is, are the international instruments of biodiversity conservation are successful in building a shared future? So I will say that yes, CBD and all other international treaties are successful in building shared future. So I will start that in view of the emerging environmental problems and their severe side effects, many international conventions and meetings have been organized globally for last several decades. Some of the important events are Stockholm Convention, Basel Convention, Rotterdam Convention, Kyoto Protocol, Cartagena Protocol, Cartagena Convention, CBD, CITES, and many, many more. I will say that biodiversity remains the answer to several sustainable developmental challenges, from nature-based solution to climate, health issues, food, water security, sustainable livelihood. Biodiversity is one and only foundation upon which we can build our bags better. So, 3 C's are required for achievement of any desirable objectives. These are collaboration, coordination, and communities. Collaboration between the institutes involving environmentalists, taxonomists, and biodiversity experts. We can enhance the efficiency by promoting coordinated taxonomical research, by avoiding the duplication of the works, by developing trained parataxonomists and scientists for the compilation of the data, prioritizing work on hotspots and finding out the knowledge gap, ensuring the public participation in documenting the biodiversity. And for extracting any scientific insight, we need lot of the factors and lot of the subjects like ecology, evolution, taxonomy, technology, genomics. We all can achieve them collectively better. So in favor of this topic, I want to highlight some points that international legal instruments have produced many positive conservation outcomes. Some of the importance are the designation of protected areas pursuant to international obligations. Similarly, instigated national legislation regulating the exploitation of the biodiversity, then enhanced priority for conservation issues in government agendas, incorporation of technical guidance adopted by country of participation and other treaties bodies into national action plan, then coordinated data collection, increased cooperation among and between the government and non-government stakeholders, then direct assistance to conservation initiatives through the treaty's funding mechanism. There are many instances in which harmful development activities were stopped through the compliance mechanism. So there are some factors like scaling, action, stability, cooperation, priority setting, hub, and compliance, which are required for successful of any international instrument for achieving the set goals. So at last, I would like to say that from the analysis of so many papers, participatory approaches are still the best solution for conservation of biodiversity. For significant reduction of rate of biodiversity loss, CITES, CBD, and all other international instruments and processes are coherent and mutually supportive. So if developing nations like us are not held strict environmental standards, they would develop their infrastructure around unsustainable practices. Thus, to prevent the locking in outdated environmental actions, eco-environmental standards must be enforced internationally. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Neelam. you have saved a minute for all of us. Yes, indeed, there are some progress in the international fora. Now, may I invite Chanchal? Is she here?
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir.
Yes.
Good morning to all.
Once again, Chanchal is a technical assistant at NBPGR Regional Station, Jodhpur. Excellent. You are the only technical person participating in this debate. So we are very happy to welcome you here. Your time starts now.
Thank you, sir. Good morning to all, ma'am and sir. मेरा बायोडाइवर्सिटी कंजर्वेशन के लिए जो भी नेशनल और इंटरनेशनल लेवल के इंस्ट्रूमेंट है, इनके लिए मैं फुल्ली सक्सेसफुल नहीं मानती हूँ, क्योंकि इनका जो वर्क है वो ग्राउंड लेवल पे इतना अच्छा नहीं है। क्योंकि हम जैसे वेरिएबिलिटी वाले क्रॉप्स को जो हम स्पीसीज के सीड लाते हैं, हम अपने यहाँ एक्स सीटू में कंजर्व करते हैं, तो मेरा मानना है कि इनको इनके नेचुरल हैबिटेट में इनको कंजर्वेशन करना चाहिए। तो इसके लिए हमें अवेयरनेस या कोई इंस्ट्रूमेंट वर्क या एनजीओ वगैरह ऐसा कुछ होना चाहिए जिससे हम उनको कंजर्व कर सके उनके नेचुरल हैबिटेट पे। लेकिन ये कि हमारे बायोडाइवर्सिटी कंजर्वेशन के जो भी नेशनल इंटरनेशनल इंस्ट्रूमेंट है वो हम बाहर से एक्जिनस सीड या स्पीसीज क्रॉप वेरिएबिलिटी वाली क्रॉप्स लाते हैं, तो उनका अच्छे से मॉनिटरिंग नहीं होती है। तो उनको वो उनकी ग्रोथ हुई है या नहीं हुई तो क्यों नहीं, क्लाइमेटिक रीजन वगैरह, इसका मतलब पूरा प्रॉपरली मॉनिटरिंग ऊपरी लेवल पे हो जाती है, लेकिन या लोकल लेवल पे या वहाँ नहीं हो पाती है। इसके अलावा यहाँ जहाँ डेवलप एरिया है वहाँ इनकी सक्सेसफुल रेशियो अच्छा है, लेकिन रूरल एरिया पे लोकल एरिया पे इनका सक्सेसफुल रेशियो बढ़िया नहीं है। इनको जितना हम डॉक्यूमेंटली अच्छे से लेके चलते उतना इसका प्रैक्टिकली नहीं हो पाता है, जो इनका इतना अच्छा रेस्पॉन्स होना चाहिए। इस पे जो भी सीड कंजर्व हम जैसे लोकल एरिया रूरल एरिया में किसान से हम सीड ले लेते हैं, कंजर्व करते हैं हम हमारे एक्स-सीटू कंजर्वेशन में, वो अगर उनके नेचुरल हैबिटेट में वहीं पे उनका अच्छे से कंजर्व करे तो उनका अच्छा रेस्पॉन्स हो सकता है। तो ये चीजें नहीं हो पाती है हमारे इसके इंटरनेशनल नेशनल इंस्ट्रूमेंट के तहत। थैंक यू सर।
Thank you very much, Chanchal ji. बहुत बढ़िया. So this brings us to the end of team 3, which comprised of Neelam Shekhawat and Chanchal Jaina. Now I invite the last team of today's debate, comprising of Dr. Badal Singh and Dr. Harish. First, Dr. Badal. Badal, join karo. If you switch on.
Yes, sir.
Yes, that's it.
I'm audible, sir?
Yeah, you are audible. He is a scientist at Division of Germplasm Conservation, NBPGR. He is a student of Economic Botany and Plant Genetic Resources. I think in this entire set of 8 people, he is the one who was trained at NBPGR, master's and doctoral degree from NBPGR. Excellent. He is interested in this topic because of the relevance to his scientific field, and it is highly useful in future planning and strategy making. Excellent. He is going to speak for the topic. Badal, your time starts now.
Okay, sir. Most of the points of all our team members have been shared. I just want to start with the very basic things of biodiversity. I will quote the example of Jupiter. Everybody should know that due to the Jupiter gravity, millions of comets and meteoroids did not fall on Earth. And so you can imagine that the life on Earth is so much rare in all the cosmos we know up to now. It's so rare, it's so much rare, and so it's most costliest thing in the universe. I would say that. So if anyone say that is due to the fund crunches, we are not able to conserve this. That will not be going to justify it. So I will start with the very from the very start of this why we get to this point. Why we are debating on this? So I want to tell that in history there are 5 mass extinction events, and they are natural mass extinction. And I want to tell all our members that the natural mass extinction is actually guided the evolution where we have come. But the scientists we are predicting the 6th big mass extinction that will be the first case when a particular life is responsible for the extinction, the loss of life. That will, unfortunately, we are Homo sapiens. So Homo sapiens originated in Africa 52,000 years BC just, and 52,000 to 9,000 BC. They have originated in Africa, migrated to Eurasia, Oceania to Australia, and Europe to South America. And you're surprised to know that most of the biodiversity loss are the places where humans move. The lowest loss is in Africa, that is 21%. So we ourselves are the invasive alien species for the Earth. Okay, so what happened pre-CVD? The pre-CVD time was the free exchange of the genetic resources, and but when you put something free, it's mostly go to the unaccountability and unregulation. And after post-CVD, when you put the price tag on any living organism, maybe it reduces the exchange, it may slow down the progress, but it's also lead to the accountability and also leads to the other things like for example, I have the example when I am working in Shimla. We have apple introduced Jamna's apple, and also we have kiwi. The apple was introduced earlier. There is no regulated, still their non-regulated introduction is there. And today's status is that almost 15 sprays are required on apple. To produce one good quality apple, we have to do 15 pesticidal spray. And kiwi, still no spray is there, because the kiwi has introduced to the institutional channel, and there has been the accountability. So lesser and both are equally commercial crops. And second, one thing I want to point out that the importance of this international institution, like all we are talking about, just talking about our human welfare of mankind, but actually we are just equivalent species to all other species. We are not very special. Our collective intelligence is as equal to the other species, because we only see on that point where we get our benefit, but actually we are all same. And these international institutions, what I am talking about, I am going to point out some of the points that in Europe only 32 birds, 16 mammal species has been saved from extinction. In India, 180 to 600 tiger population, that is almost doubled. We have some other success stories. This wild bison, lynx, pangolins, billibis, red kites. These all will get extinct if these conservation efforts will not in place. Yes, we are not able to completely implement the HE's biodiversity target, yes, because most of this is because it's not insufficiently incorporated in the local national goals, government goals. But it's slow, but it's steady. Third, the last point I want to share, we are growing more rice, wheat, and maize. We are conserving more rice, wheat, and maize, and we are researching more. rice, wheat, and maize. In this conservation also, we have our inherent selfishness is there. But if someone has to work on the minor crops or some non-important crops, if you want to conserve or you want to research, you have to, if you are working on rice, you can say that 75% people feed on this to put the impact in the research paper in the introduction column. But when you are doing research and conserving minor species, then you have to write, oh, this is the HE's target, we have to conserve this to make its impact. So what I am saying that these all are institutional instruments, international instruments, which are the only hope which we have to make the things right. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Badal. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, Badal. Now, the second half of the team, Dr. Harish, also from Division of Conservation, Germplasm Conservation, National Bureau of Plant Genetic Resources, Delhi. He's interested in this topic because, and he's going to speak against the topic. And he says the conservation strategies have failed. In underdeveloped countries, they harbor over 20% of the world's species, but they have failed. Strategies have failed. So he's speaking against the topic. Harish,
yes, sir.
Come on to the screen. Yes. So your time starts now.
Okay, sir. Respected director, sir, jury members, my seniors, my colleagues, I will start by underlining what Dr. Badal said just now. We are just one more species on the earth. The biodiversity is not distributed evenly on earth. It is usually greater in tropics. These tropical forest ecosystems cover over less than 10% of the earth's surface, but contain 90% of the world species. It will also be noted that as per World Bank report, except Hong Kong and Singapore, almost all the 30 tropical countries remain underdeveloped at the start of this 21st century. The developed countries have, until recently, been able to exploit the genetic resources of tropical countries for agricultural and pharmacological advantages at the little less cost. Developing countries have now realized the value of the genetic resources. Therefore, they have started placing restrictions on them. This parallel concern about the exploitation of biological resources expressed by both by industrialized and under-industrialized countries have led to the negotiations for a convention on biological diversity. Therefore, in 1992, United Nations founded the Convention on Biological Diversity during their summit in Rio de Janeiro. Article 3 of the CBD emphasizes that countries benefiting the most from the exploitation of the biodiversity should contribute most to its conservation. The current level of overseas development assistance available to the developing countries for the conservation of biodiversity is estimated to be $228 million. It is said that a tenfold increase in commitment around $20 billion from the donor countries, that is developed countries, is therefore required, which is highly unlikely. Whereas OECD countries spend over $240 billion each year for their own agriculture support programs, which are themselves ultimately dependent on biodiversity. In another survey, it was found that resources officially allotted for conservation of biodiversity by both public and private sector is worth $80 to $90 billion per year. On the other hand, money spent on harmful subsidies for producing commodities linked to the forest destruction is estimated around 500 billion. We can see in both the cases, we can see the disparity. A report released by the United Nations indicates that only 6 of the 20 targets that were formulated in Aichi, Japan have been partially achieved, not even fully achieved. 4 were not reflected in any of the country's plans. One of them being the phasing out subsidies for activities that are harm the environment. Furthermore, there is insufficient financial resources and major knowledge gaps to properly address these goals. The reason why this was not noticed earlier is due to the lack of proper monitoring. In some cases, countries did not have effective indicators, evaluation plans to monitor their progress. Importantly, the report also tells that halting and reversing biological diversity loss is entirely possible by protecting more of the remaining natural spaces, curbing wildlife overexploitation, and crucially reforming the way we produce and consume food. The 2010 Aichi decisions were batch of orphan targets never actively owned by most of the parties, let alone supported with necessary resources, says Leo Shuo, Global Policy Advisor of Greenpeace East Asia. It is self-evidently true that rich will always overexploit nature for its greed and materialistic needs, and poor will always dependent on nature for its survival. The other way of looking at it is saving biodiversity is one more arrogant attempt by the human to control nature. Over 90% of the species ever lived on this planet are gone extinct. We did not kill them all. They just disappeared at the rate of 25 species a day, regardless of our behavior or how we act. Let them go gracefully. Sometimes phrases like save the planet look funny to me. The planet is here for 4.5 billion years. Humans are here for 100 to 200,000 years. We are engaged in heavy industry for little over 200 years. The planet has been through a lot worse than us, like earthquakes, magnetic reversals, plate tectonics, continental drift, recurring ice ages. The planet is going nowhere, but we are going extinct. All this reminds me Gandhiji's quote that world has enough for everyone's need, but not for everyone's greed. Thank you.
Thank you, Harish. So that brings us to the end of first round of 5 minutes each for the participants. In the same order, we will start 2 minutes. Dear participants, thank you for putting forth all these points. Whenever we have a university entrance exam, all those who pass exam say that the system is excellent, and all those who fail say that the system is defective. But mind you, in this system, whether it is CBD or treaty, both the parties, the gene-rich parties and the technology-rich parties, have some disappointments. But nobody wants the scrapping of the system. Please remember, it is not there. Nobody saying that we should stop this, we should abandon the system. They are only having disappointments. They are only having reservations. So I invite you to make few more wise points in your additional 2 minutes that you're going to get based on what others have spoken. So if you want to cut those points, if you want to speak against them, or if you want to make few more points, so you have this opportunity. And we start, may we start this second round, Dr. Pratibha and Dr. Saxena, sir? Shall we go ahead and start this second round?
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Dr. Sumar, start now. Please maintain the time. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Sir, I counter the point raised by Dr. Harish that developed countries have utilized all these GRs in pharma industries, but I would like to stress that there is a point of benefit sharing for the facilitate the access, which that benefit sharing aspect in the ITPGRFA, where I can cite an example that the first mandatory payment to the benefit sharing fund of ITPGRFA was made in 2018 by the Dutch plant breeding company, Nunhems, at that time owned by the Bayer, paid about $1 of 1,20,000 rupees, that is a 0.77% of the sales revenues of the seeds of 10 vegetable cultivars developed using materials obtained under SMTA from gene banks in Germany and the Netherlands. So there are few instances where this benefit sharing is happening. And I also support one point raised by Neelam Shekhawat, where one of the C, that is collaboration between the countries, where that is a part of the non-monetary benefit sharing coming under this ITPGRFA through collaborative research and also capacity building programs, trainings, etc. This benefit sharing can be accessed. So with this, I stop my points. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Suman. Now I invite Dr. Sherry to make her points.
Yes, sir. Firstly, I would like to refer to Dr. Neelam Shekhawat's remark, where the designation of protected areas has been highlighted as an achievement of the legal instrument. Now, the protected areas in all basically developing countries, they are co-inhabited by tribals and indigenous people, and the concerns of this specific group is always marginalized when it comes to debates around conservation. Now, we have the Scheduled Tribes and Other Traditional Forest Dwellers Act of 2006. But when we make heritage sites and other protected sites, we do not follow an inclusive conservation policy and end up alienating the real custodians of biodiversity. Best example, I would say, is the eviction of tribals from the Kaziranga area. So where is the alignment of national and international interests and policies with regard to biodiversity conservation? Secondly, my teammate herself had mentioned that $500 to $800 billion is the income generated from world's genetic resources. And I would like to add that 85% of this has been procured from developing countries. But the same report reveals, as has been mentioned by Dr. Harris also, that the global spending of development aid like development aid on these economically disadvantaged countries is just $50 billion, just 1/10 of the total income generated. And the disparity you see is huge. And also, why is it not channeled through the benefit sharing mechanisms that are created by these instruments? Now, even after decades of multiple policy buffering, the global poverty is increasingly getting concentrated in some of the most gene-rich countries in Africa. The proportion of poor has doubled within these countries since 1990s. So what exactly have these instruments addressed, and how they have addressed the global concerns, the core global concern of poverty, which currently stare at us in the form of SDGs. So that is all from my side. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sherry. Now, second team, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
So the first chance is to Dr. Wankhede.
Yes, sir. I cannot answer all the speakers, but the general comment I would like to make is that whatever the instruments or the protocol we get, it is the stakeholders' role, whether it is the stakeholder countries or the individual, is most important. To conserve the biodiversity, we need to strengthen our ecosystem and the biodiversity available in our areas that need to be conserved. We know that the human encroachment and the habitat loss is one of the important factors for the decline in the biodiversity. We cannot vacate that, but we can enrich the available resources we have, the land we have, for creating biodiversity. One of the important factors, that is climate change and increase in temperature, which is responsible for the loss of biodiversity as predicted by the IPCC. We can take example of the Bhutan, what it has done. Bhutan is the carbon negative country. We are far from that, but at least we can try to reduce our carbon emission by whatever the renewable sources available with us, and by funding the research to have a renewable energy, so that we can reduce the carbon emission and the rise in the temperature, because the local ecosystem, even if it is strengthened, that will also conserve biodiversity to larger extent. That is what I would like to put here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wankhede. bringing out this very important point of Bhutan being carbon negative. You should also remember that they import lots of rice from India, which is carbon positive. Yeah. Now, Dr. Yasin, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thanks for the second chance. I like to, I'm not specific to anybody, but a few questions from Chanchal I can answer. Like they cannot come directly and conserve anything in our country. So because of that states sovereignty, they have to follow. So none of the sustainable development goal is achieved and including biodiversity. Okay, so conservation is a failure from my point of view. And if what is to be conserved is failed, we cannot share. And what we cannot share, we cannot expect benefits out of it. So that is very important. So one point is failed means that the flow is failed, the pathway is failed. Okay, the conservation of biodiversity is not something kept in balance and under low temperature. So we have to keep in mind that it should be available to the common public and man should get benefits out of it. And global biodiversity is for the global mankind, and one cannot prevent people from enjoying the biodiversity, as well as one should not be allowed to deplete its availability to somebody else. There are many wars and natural calamities happened, and what we can conserve is nothing out of it. And if we have not conserved, we cannot share and no benefits out of it. There are some instances known to me. That is like some of the professors from these developed nations ask Asian students to come with biological materials for PhD and postdoc without signing any MTA or SMTA. I can have evidence. I can show you the evidence if it is required. And the rules are only to be broken by them and not to follow, because that they means like they will develop the rules, then they themselves won't follow it. And few questions for us, like when we are talking about the climate conditions and conservation, all these things, at least we have to follow something which is compatible with the environment. So few questions to ask ourselves. One is, how many apples and guava we ate today without any wax coating or plastic coating? Second is, did we stop using plastics or we recycle it properly? We can just check our kitchen once. Can we live without any fans and ACs just like people live in Switzerland? Myanmar has banned timber export. Did we stop it, or do we do anything like that? The tectonic plates where our lands are actually floating is on a layer of liquid rock. To balance this, we need mountains, rivers, lakes, and intact biodiversity on its surface. Disrupting anything will make ourselves endangered. So if we think like only the biodiversity is endangered, then we are also a part of it. We should not forget it. Every hotspot has unique biodiversity. So if we lose one, that would be a catastrophic one. Okay, the most intact hotspot is California Floristic Province, which is with a 35% of vegetation. Means almost 1,000 plus species lost there also. So we have to think what we are going to conserve and what we are going to think about benefits and sharing. Okay. Next is area-based management tools, marine protected area, sectoral ABMT, where stakeholder engagement, proactive consultations, and transparency is needed. If French expedition can go and explore somewhere in the global space, who will regulate it? So if there is no regulation on this, then it is a failure. Robust mechanisms and effective negotiations of the member states are needed, which is not at all achieved. Hence, the tools fail to play its role. And happy conserving. Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Yasin. Together, second team, Dr. Bankid and Yasin have raised a number of questions for all of us to ponder. Now it is time Dr. Neelam and then Chanchal make their points. First, Dr. Neelam, please. Your additional 2 minutes to raise cross questions, cut others' points. Neelam?
Sir, I want to conclude, or I want to make some points that yes, 100% achievements are not there, but we can still overcome the failures by some basic things which are needed. Maybe to review the scaling pattern, that scaling of coordination, cooperation, standard setting, agenda setting, at the international, national, regional levels. Then action, application of the international commitments by national authorities in legislation, policies, practices, we can review them. Then stability, buffering against capricious national policy changes through the relative long-term stability provided by international legal obligations. So by cooperation between among and government and non-government stakeholders, and by reviewing the priority settings, serving as a moral compass for national authorities and societies, keeping the conservation on the top agenda. Then hub, pooling, sharing, generation of information and expertise, including the centralized technical guidance also. And finally, the compliance as appropriate, encouraging, facilitating compliance through the funding or other assistance. We can achieve collectively more. I would like to say that finally. So thank you, sir.
Thank you. चंचल जी, आपकी बारी है. चंचल, is she here? Yes, बताइए. आप ये बता सकते हैं कि जो बाकी लोगों ने कुछ कहा जो आपको सही नहीं लगा, ये ठीक नहीं है, जो सही नहीं कह रहे हैं, तो you can tell about that.
हाँ, जैसे इनमें बायोडाइवर्सिटी कंजर्वेशन में इतना बताया कि हाँ ये बहुत अच्छे से हो रहा है, तो मेरा तो यही है कि इनमें मतलब जो नहीं है कि हम जैसे डॉक्यूमेंटली इनको इतना अच्छा लेके चलते हैं, उतना प्रैक्टिकली रूरल एरिया में नहीं हो पाता है. जहाँ भी लोकल जगह पे देखें तो अगर हम माने कि वहां से ले लेते हैं हम सीड इनको, फिर उनका जो मॉनिटरिंग का देखना होता है तो वो भी कंप्लीटली इतना अच्छा नहीं हो पाता है. जहाँ ये नेशनल इंटरनेशनल लेवल के जो इंस्ट्रूमेंट है वो वहाँ पे ही ज्यादा उनका फोकस होता है, और हमें वेरिएबिलिटी नीचे ग्राउंड लेवल पे ज्यादा मिलती है. काफी देखी जाती है कि हाँ हमें वहाँ ये वेरिएबिलिटी मिलती है, तो उस वेरिएबिलिटी को वहाँ नेचुरल हैबिटेट में लगाने का एक होना चाहिए कि वहीं पे ही हम उसको वहाँ पे सर्वाइव हो सकता है. क्योंकि अगर हम एरिड एरिया में दूसरी वाली क्रॉप को इधर लेके आते हैं तो वो वहाँ उसका सर्वाइव नहीं हो पाएगा. तो इसके लिए हमें नेचुरल हैबिटेट में उनको लगाया जाए क्रॉप को, तो उसके लिए एक इंस्ट्रूमेंट या एनजीओ वगैरह ऐसा कुछ होना चाहिए. थैंक यू सर.
Thank you. I see that your team has given a number of suggestions, although this is a debate program, but ठीक है, बहुत बढ़िया. Now we come to the last team. We start with Dr. Badal.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead. Yes.
Sir, I am just want to put my point on the Hari's remark. Actually, we don't have so much time window to go into the conflict between the technological rich and genetic resource rich country. The truth is we need collaboration. We need technology as much as they need genetic resource. We need technology because to generate knowledge, so we can tell the poachers, you hear right, poachers, that the genetic value of, for example, rhinoceroses is much higher than the biomass value. The genetic value of a particular species is very much costlier than the biomass value. That's the point I want to put in.
Okay, thank you. Hashtag collaboration.
Yes, sir.
What you said. Okay. Yeah. Dr. Harish.
Yes, sir.
You will have the last word.
Okay, sir. Dr. Sumaya has given some examples of benefit sharing. But Nagoya Protocol still it is not legally binding, and most exploiting countries like USA and Australia still they are not parties to CBD. And Dr. Badal said that mass extinction happened regardless of our human interference. Okay, thank you, sir. Only 2 points.
Excellent. I see that 8 participants, and it's very important to see here that 5 of the participants are women colleagues. That's again a true representative of generally who are going to do conservation. globally. Thank you very much. Most of you have brought out a number of, let's say, emotional issues, local issues, perhaps implementation, country level issues, provincial issues, perhaps judges, Dr. Saxena and Dr. Pratibha Brahmi would have liked to see all of you debate upon on MAT, PIC, DSI, and perhaps we all know that whatever we decide at the international level, ultimately it is the national legislation that overrules, that overrides all these things. So everything depends upon what we are going to do. Yes, I hope they are a little bit satisfied with what participants have, let's say, thrown up for debate and for understanding and for implementation of our own levels. Thank you very much. May I now take this program further? May I invite for the judges' remarks? May I invite first Dr. Sanjeev Saxena, please?
Thank you, Sunil. I am audible?
Yes, you are. You are. Go ahead, sir.
Well, it's a pleasure to see when we, as you said, when we started with the discussions on ITPGR, CBD, COP3, COP4, we were seen as some people who are outsiders, externalities, not related with research. If they don't know what to do research, they're getting into it. But it's a very pleasure to see that young people here getting into this treaties and the understanding of the IPR and how they will relate to us. I would say that because it's a competition, I would say that I'm constrained with the internet speed and those. So the participants may excuse me because that may affect my judgment. So all of you have done very well, and I appreciate that you have taken interest and done it. One thing which comes out is that neither, particularly against people, nobody decried those treaties. Nobody said that this is not correct and this should not be done.
Yes.
Meaning thereby that we all want to have a better planet and a better conservation so that we leave a better world to our children and grandchildren. But there was a very thin line between the for and against people. Even the for people realized that there is some constraints out there. Against, obviously they did it. But many of the limitations expressed were at the implementation level.
That's right.
And many of them at national implementation.
Yes.
I would have liked if this some international level implementation issues also, that would have been good. But this is NBPGR.
Yeah.
Right? So even other countries who are having problems in implementation, where there are constraints, we could do that. But otherwise, these are basically policy instruments. They give you guidelines and policy, which the nations have to do it. So a bit of analysis of these policy instruments, what the other countries would have done, and then comparing that these are the policies which can be adopted by our country, or these are the policies which are constraining research. We did a good workshop on Biodiversity Act.
Yeah.
So these are the policies which are hindering research and conservation, whatever it is. Would have been much more thing, but certainly it's NBPGR and you people once initiated into this. I tell you, when somebody is initiated into these policy issues, he or she will never leave it for the whole of life. It's like a dopamine injection that you get. Learn what negotiations are taking place. Sunil is an example of it. He got bitten a bit late, but he was also bitten by that bug, and he's doing very good. So that is my only concern, and all of you have done very well, and it was pleasure to see colleagues in NBPGR after a long time. And the only complaint is that it being virtual, they are not offering me any tea. Never mind. I'll do it sometime. I'll visit you and have tea with you. Thank you all of you. And then please go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir, Dr. Saxena. Yes, if anybody who talked for the first time that biodiversity and intellectual property rights have something in common and we have to talk both of them in the same breath, it was Dr. Saxena in NBPGR. Thank you very much. May I now invite Dr. Pratibha Brahmi for her comments.
Thank you, Dr. Sunil and Dr. Veena for this opportunity. I'm really happy to see people are now starting to read and analyze, although everybody's perception is different. What I want to say is that if I were to speak on these, I would just say that there is nothing wrong with the instruments. And I completely agree with Dr. Saxena that it is the implementation part. So, and also implementation at the individual level. I mean, we are all aware that it is the human pressure which is leading to biodiversity loss, and there's the Yasin has raised that if there is no biodiversity, then what is the use of talking about access and benefit sharing? So that is correct, but the effort has to start at the individual level. In today's morning newspaper also, I read that in the year 2021, all the 4 climate indicators have recorded very high, like the mean temperature, the acidification of the oceans, the carbon emissions, and heating of the oceans. So all these parameters have increased in this year, which and also in COVID situations, we had lessons that when everything was quiet and locked down, we could see some birds coming back to the cities, So we realize that it is the human pressure which is on the biodiversity. So there is nothing wrong with the instruments. It is with the implementation part. And each one of us have responsibility. And I was really happy to hear what all the speakers have to say about their perception on. But although we would have liked to listen more on how this biodiversity legislations have affected, whether it is going in a positive way or a negative way. So very few points, but very good points are also raised by some of them. So I have tried to judge the competition in for each speaker, the presentation, the confidence of presentation, and then the time management and the content. And 5 marks for extra 2 minutes, which you had given, Sunil. So I have scored them and I have passed on to the organizers. So thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you, Sunil and Dr. Veena.
Yeah. Thank you, madam. Thank you very much. Yes, indeed. I forgot to tell you in advance, all of you, that this particular program is live on YouTube. It will be available on YouTube. So the views expressed here by all the speakers, the participants who debated, as well as both the judges, clearly shows that nothing is wrong with the international instruments. So the secretariat people, both at ITPGRFA and CBD, will be very happy to listen to that, because in both those places, they give lots of value to India's opinion and India's status. Thank you very much, both the judges. May I now invite Dr. Ashok Kumar, Director NBPGR, for his remarks about this particular event.
Good morning, good afternoon to all of you, especially on behalf of NBPGR. We welcome Dr. Sanjeev Saxena, our old colleague. Are you listening me? सुनाई दे रहा आपको?
जी, audible है sir, please go ahead.
आवाज आ रही है मेरी?
हाँ जी, please go ahead.
Okay, so really, I am really thankful to Dr. Sanjeev Saxena, Dr. Pratibha Brahmi, both the judges, our head of division, and the Sunil Achak, the organizer or the convener of this event. And overall, I am really thankful to the participants, because I have seen, I was seeing this number of persons, more than 50% of the Bureau staff have been joined there, about 51, 52 were here. And out of them, 8 participants, they were for or against to the instrument. So it shows the awareness among the young generation, Dr. Sanjeev just told when we were joined to the NBPGR, we were different disciplines like botany, physiology, breeding, entomology, pathology, so many disciplines of the agriculture. But when we came to NBPGR, we became the PGR person. And not only the PGR person, Dr. Saxena became the policy person, and Dr. Satya, they left their disciplines of their botany or their physiology or their own discipline and joined the PGR. And PGR in the perspective of this policy issues, policy planning, and policy guidelines, just to cater the needs of the national instruments. Then they were also given the input to the international instruments for which we are debating here, because we have or the persons like Dr. Sanjeev, Dr. Agrawal, or Dr. Pratibha, Dr. Sunil, Dr. Khetarpal, they have started this one from the scratch, and now the literature is available from different forms, but they have been developed their own literature. They were involved in the policy guidelines, and also for giving the input to different ministries in our own country and to the international instruments. So I am very thankful to the judges because they are very, very capable. They are very, very capable for the judging point of view. Because Sanjeev, I am really thankful to you to be here in this event. When we come to this instrument, our young scientists really they have curated a lot of data. They have read the literature. They have seen this the issues, and they have read thoroughly. When Dr. Sunil come to me, then I told, please only involve the persons of the younger persons, so they can read thoroughly, they can understand, because now the time has come, because in our time, we were only involved in the PGR conservation. But now the time has come to implement these instruments, and so, not only this, and we have a thorough knowledge of the pros and cons of all these instruments, because all the instruments to be implemented at national level, through NBPGR, or through the persons who are involved in at the grassroots level for the technological aspect, as well as for the awareness program in the country. So I am very much sure that our young students, our young scientists, they are very much familiar with these instruments. So there is no for and against for these instruments, because we have to take this in an honest manner, and this should involve for the conservation program through seeing all this. You can see the instruments which may be beneficial, and now the time has come to see and to also work for the national cause for the conservation of agro biodiversity, following the instruments which are at the reach of all of us, and we are going to debate again and again, and because overall the conservation system, particularly the activity, it needs the technological aspect, it needs the funding, it needs the money. So every nation cannot fulfill this such kind of activity of their own. So they have to depend on one another. So this is a collaborative approach among the global level to conserve the biodiversity and for utilization for the mankind, not for the commercial purpose. For it should not be a business model. But for the alleviation of the poverty, for the livelihood of the mankind, and for the benefit of the stakeholders, who have been very much far away from this, because biodiversity is the only tool that can be a future tool for the sustainable development, sustainable agriculture, and even for the development of the ecosystem and for the sustainable environment. So at any cost, at national level, international level, or through different tools and technology instruments, we should conserve our biodiversity and we should save our planet. With this, I am thankful to the Dr. Sunil Archak, Dr. Veena Gupta, all the persons who are involved in the organizing this event, giving me the opportunity to be here. With this, I am thankful to all of you, particularly for the young scientists who have taken part in this event, and our two most eminent judges, Dr. Pratibha, Dr. Sanjeev, to be here with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your comments. I'm sure you are happy with the participants and then the overall participation and then the program of debate. This gives us encouragement that we must go ahead with having more and more debates on all the relevant subjects in NBPGR, because when people represent India in various international forums, negotiations, what is required there is a consensus view from the country. A consensus view from the country is usually developed at technical level based on the consensus view at NBPGR, because it is NBPGR which provides lots of technical inputs to the ministry, and from where these are further flown to the organizations. So it is very important that we have this churning. Chintan Manthan ki bahut zarurat hai, so debates are very important, sir. Thank you very much for encouraging us to organize this particular program. May I now invite Dr. Veena Gupta, the organizer of this particular biodiversity program, to let us know about the results of today's debate program. Although the judges have already said that every participant is a winner, फिर भी हमें किसी विनर की जरूरत है, हमेशा जरूरत है. So I invite Madam to let us know the results, please.
Thank you, Dr. Sunil Archak. So today's topic, a very vibrant topic, and where discussions can go on for even a longer time, but time is a limit for all of us. So even today, guns and bulldozers, they are still very much threat to our biodiversity. They are very old, but they are also new today in the current scenario. And for the shared future, we need the biodiversity, which is the base for this. So first of all, I would like to thank both of my judges, Dr. Pratibha Brahmi and Dr. Sanjeev Saxena, who are expert on this topic, and they have judged all the participants based on their 4 criteria, which is presentation, confidence, time, and then their contents, how they have presented their views for the topic and against the topic. So by averaging both the marks given by both the judges, although there is a very thin difference between first and second, so the first position goes to team number 1, Dr. Sherry and Dr. Suma. So a very big hand to both of them, Sherry and Suma. And the second team, second prize goes to team number 4, Dr. Badal and Dr. Harish, who have put forward their views with very good examples on the basis of their experience in 2 different areas from where they have come, from Northeast and from the Northwestern Himalayas. So although all the participants will be getting certificates, but the prizes are for first and second position winners. And now I have the privilege to give vote of thanks to all of you. First to our judges, that they have even spared their time for this debate competition. And special thanks to Dr. Sanjeev Saxena, to whom I contacted yesterday only, and he readily agreed for this. Thanks, Dr. Saxena.
Madam, meanwhile, may I ask everybody to switch on video so that we can take a good photo when Madam is presenting vote of thanks, please.
Okay.
Please continue, Madam.
Yeah. So I thank profusely to both of our judges. Secondly, I would like to thank our participants, all the 4 teams, because without their participation, this debate will not have been such a hot topic for discussion. So I thank all the 4 teams and the 8 participants to putting forward their views on this topic. Now I thank all the participants for this debate competition, other than the actual persons who have given their time to attend this program. And I also thank my colleague, Dr. Sunil Archak, who has taken great pains to make this program successful. And also thanks to his team comprising Dr. Vijay Mandal and others who have given their time for the smoothly conduct of this program. Finally, I would like to thank our director, on whose initiative we have taken this program, and this topic was selected by us for the debate competition. And once again, I thank to the winners and to the participants. All have given their views in a very nice way, but there has to be some going up and some are following them. So thanks to all of you. And Dr. Pratibha Brahmi has raised her hand. So please, madam, what do you want to say?
Yes, it is not good to talk after the vote of thanks. But I just wanted to say that since it was a team event, so we have given prize to the team. But if it was individual, I would have given prize to Dr. Neelam Shekhawat from Jodhpur. She spoke with facts and figures, very confident. So just because we were bound by the team, I think she was not supported very well by her partner. But otherwise, that lady also spoke very well. But she had only one argument. So that is why. Thank you. Just it is not a justification, just the format of the event. Thank you.
There is always next chance. There is always a next chance for all the participants. We are going to conduct many more.
Yes. Okay. So special thanks to Dr. Neelam Shekhawat.
Yes.
For giving such a nice presentation with facts and all these things. So now I thank you all once for all. And we come to the close of this debate competition. Thank you all. We will be giving the certificates and prizes on Saturday when the main function will be there. So I again invite you all, especially our judges, for that program. We'll soon send you the link for the Saturday's program also. Thank you. Thank you again. Yeah.
Thank you very much, one and all. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Sir, I have a request. Dr. Sunil, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, please hold some other debate also like this, just for 1 hour. It will be a.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we will do that. We will do that. We will have a series of debates.
Yes.
And the responsibility of hosting will be on different regional stations.
Oh, yes, no problem. Yes, sir.
You can do that. You can do that.
Thanks very much.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Thanks to all.